What the hell is Steve's obsession with giving the Giants Joe Alt? Isn't his whole mantra back to average on the offensive line? And the Giants signed Illuminor already, especially when y'all love wide receivers who get open. Cough, neighbors, cough, cough. Then there's just a random word tacked at the end of this tweet that doesn't appear to relate to anything else. So, justify yourself, Big Goofy.
Well, grouchy. In those scenarios, Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison Jr. are off the board.
Okay.
Right? They were off the board in the scenario the other day.
Okay.
So now I'm debating between tackle 1
and Odunze.
I also believe Illuminor can play guard, as he has at other points in his career. I don't know that the Giants are back to average yet. So that's all. I get it, though. I asked Giants fans. They were very vocal. I asked Giants fans on Twitter the other day, what is your, issue with drafting an offensive lineman? And it varied from, well, we've already done it a ton. We've already drafted so many offensive linemen. We keep hitting. I don't trust this team to develop them. They have a new offensive line coach, so maybe they will develop. So there's reasons. I get it. I've heard you, Giants fans. I'll give you just the receiver from now on. Best receiver on the board is going to the Giants from now on. Every time I do a mock draft between now and whatever it is, April 25th. Okay?
You're just caving, huh?
Yeah, I got caved to the Lions last year. They made fun of me on social media. I didn't say anything bad about them ever again. Okay. A+ is all around for the Lions. Don't make fun of me on social media. Don't call me out.
All right.
And they drafted all model guys last year, so of course I like the Lions.
Even if,
the Giants, is the offensive line back to average? I really think Joe Alt and Illuminor at guard and Evan Neal, whatever he's doing, is getting them closer to average.
It's closer.
If not better.
I don't know if it's getting them to average yet. My thing would be...
You're an Illuminor guy, too.
Yeah. Illuminor is a player you sign so that you don't have to draft an offensive lineman at 6, right? It doesn't mean that you don't draft one. It just means you don't need to anymore, right? So you can still look at that, and your evaluation between Joe Alt and Rome Odunze, that's basically what you're doing. You're just deciding which one is the better player right now. Who is best player available between Odunze and Joe Alt? It doesn't mean that now I have Illuminor, Joe Alt is off the table. He's not an option anymore. Jermaine's my guy at right tackle. He's what the Lions did last year when they signed a whole bunch of veteran corners, right? So they didn't have to take the first corner off the board when they were picking. They could go in a different direction. Again, it didn't mean that they weren't ever going to. It just meant that they no longer needed to.
The other part of this, and I've argued both sides of it, in this particular draft, everything we just said about the receivers. So you're debating between receiver 3, Odunze, and tackle 1, when the scarcity of the tackle position versus the scarcity of the receiver position.
Yeah.
If you're going to add more receivers to the mix, which I believe you should, if you're the Giants, the value in rounds 2 through 4 at receiver is far greater than the value at tackle in rounds 2 through 4. So there's more opportunity there. So I would double up at receiver beyond that, but I think Joe Alt is not a crazy pick. Telling me that he's a left tackle and moving him to the right and we don't want to do that again, nah, that's not stuff. Those aren't considerations.
Yeah, I'm much more scared of the drop-off in tackle levels as I go through the rounds than I am by wide receiver. So
yeah. I also believe, as I've studied the numbers, WAR, salaries and everything, I'm coming around to a first contract tackle, given the price of tackles. A first contract tackle who plays at a high level is one of the most valuable positions in the NFL. We already knew this, so I'm not trying to break new ground. The NFL has always valued tackles, but I think even more so, first contract good tackles. Now predicting them, you got to do that first, but first contract good tackles, very, very valuable.
And I also think at this point, Evan Neal is a sunk cost. He's not relevant to the conversation, in my opinion.
No, that's what I asked. If you don't want to tackle, are you just you just don't want to do the Evan Neal thing again? Right? Are you just hurt by the miss on tackle a couple years ago?
But I mean, just in terms of,
or do you believe that in year 3 he'll develop?
Right.
Right. So one of those things. Are you just what's the word I'm looking for? You're just
scarred.
Scarred. Yeah. You're scarred by Evan Neal, and you don't want to play that game again, or you actually believe that he could develop with it because you have a new O-line coach.
Yeah,
or you're just fine with Illuminor.
And I have more sympathy for the first part than the second. If you at this point you cannot be factoring Evan Neal in as a player who is going to contribute and be good, and therefore I can't draft a replacement. You have to think of him at this point as a bonus if you get anything out of him. He's already failed. And if we get anything out of Evan Neal going forward, it's a win, right? but he's no longer in the factoring in for how we're treating that position going forward. I do have some sympathy for the idea of we appear to be bad at this, so let's not keep making the same mistake. Like the Patriots and wide receivers, right? There's a point where you go, evidently you just stink at evaluating wide receivers, so probably stop drafting them.
No, there's 2 years of
You're right.
Joe Shane being here.
Yeah, so I'm not saying the Giants are there, but I'm saying I at least have sympathy for that because there's a point where that does become a thing, and you're like, you failed enough at doing this, so we're probably not going to succeed next time. Let's go in a different direction and figure something else out at that position. I don't think that the Giants are there just because they whiffed on Evan Neal so far.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm fine. I've heard the feedback from Giants fans. I get it. I get where their head's at.
And you're caving.
I'm not caving.
You just said you're caving.
I don't have any more mock drafts left, so.
So you're caving.
No, I did it yesterday. Joe Alt to the Giants. I don't hate it. Alt over Adunze for them.